I am sitting in my empty apartment staring at an engagement ring on the coffee table. It does not belong on anyone's finger anymore. 3 months ago, I thought my life was perfect. I had a job I worked 6 years to build a woman I loved more than anything, and a brother I would have done anything for. I never thought the two people I trusted most would be the ones to destroy everything. But they did. And what happened next changed me in ways I could not have imagined. If you have ever felt betrayed by someone you loved, stay with me through this story. You might find something that helps you heal too. Before we continue, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop a comment below and let me know your city or country. And if this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me keep sharing these experiences. My name is Brendan. I am 29 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon. For the past 6 years, I have been working at an architecture firm downtown. It was not easy getting here. I started as a junior draftsman right out of college, working long hours, learning everything I could. Slowly, I climbed my way up to a stable position. I was finally at a place where I could think about the future, about building a life. Every morning, I would wake up at 6 and go for a run through the park near my apartment. It cleared my head before the workday started. On weekends, I loved cooking. There was something peaceful about chopping vegetables, trying new recipes, creating something with my own hands. My life had a rhythm to it. It felt good. It felt right. 5 years ago, I met Sarah at a small coffee shop on Hawthorne Street. She was sitting by the window reading a book about teaching methods. I ordered my usual black coffee and somehow found the courage to ask what she was reading. She looked up with this bright smile and told me she was a third-grade teacher preparing for the new school year. We talked for 2 hours that day. Her voice was soft and her laugh was genuine. She had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. We started dating a week later. Sarah was everything I thought I wanted. She was kind, patient with her students, and she loved quiet evenings at home. We would curl up on the couch together, her reading, while I sketched building designs. It was simple, comfortable. We got engaged 8 months ago. I proposed at the same coffee shop where we met. She cried happy tears and said yes immediately. We set the wedding date for 3 months away. Everything was planned. We chose this beautiful barn venue just outside the city, sent out invitations, picked the flowers, tasted the cake. Our life together was about to officially begin. Then there was my brother Kyle. He is 3 years younger than me, about 26 now. Growing up, we were close. I always looked out for him. When kids picked on him in middle school, I stepped in. When he needed help with homework, I stayed up late tutoring him. Kyle was always more outgoing than me, more social. He worked in marketing, though he changed jobs pretty often. He had this restless energy, always looking for the next opportunity, the next adventure. I thought it was just his personality. I never saw it as a warning sign. Kyle came over to our apartment often. He would join us for dinner, bring wine, tell funny stories about his co-workers. Sarah seemed to enjoy his company. She would laugh at his jokes, ask him about his day. I loved seeing them get along. It felt like my family was coming together. Kyle would joke about how lucky I was, how Sarah was too good for me. I would laugh and agree. I trusted both of them completely. But about a month before the wedding, things started feeling different. I came home early one Tuesday evening. I had finished a client meeting ahead of schedule and decided to surprise Sarah. When I walked into the apartment, I found Kyle and Sarah sitting on the couch. They were not doing anything wrong, not touching, just sitting there. But they seemed startled when I came in. They moved apart slightly, almost like they had been closer a moment before. Sarah smiled quickly and explained that Kyle had stopped by to help her pick out a birthday gift for me. My birthday was 2 weeks away. It made sense, but something felt off. I could not put my finger on it. Sarah's face was a little flushed. Kyle's laugh sounded forced. I pushed the feeling down. I told myself I was being paranoid, that wedding stress was getting to me. 2 weeks after that, I started noticing Sarah was slower to answer my calls. When I asked about her day, her answers were vague. She said she was busy at school, that the end of the year was always hectic with final projects and parent meetings. I believed her. I even felt guilty for bothering her with texts during work hours. I tried to be more supportive to give her space. 3 weeks before the wedding, Kyle asked me something strange. We were having lunch together at a deli near my office. He looked at me seriously and said, "Are you sure Sarah is the right person for you?" I was shocked. I asked him what he meant. He shrugged and said maybe I was rushing into things, that marriage was a big step. I got defensive. I told him Sarah was perfect, that I loved her, that I could not imagine my life without her. Kyle backed off immediately. He said he was just playing devil's advocate, that he was happy for me. But his eyes had this look I could not read. It unsettled me for the rest of the day. 2 weeks before the wedding, Sarah started spending more time on her phone. She would smile at the screen type quickly, then lock it when I came near. When I asked who she was texting, she said it was her maid of honor coordinating last-minute wedding details. That made sense, too. Weddings required a lot of communication. But one evening, I walked past her while she was texting, and I saw Kyle's name flash on the screen before she quickly turned the phone away. My stomach tightened. I asked if everything was okay. She said Kyle was asking about gift ideas for us. Another reasonable explanation. But the unease would not leave. 1 week before the wedding, Sarah canceled our final dress fitting. She said she was not feeling well, that her stomach was upset. I wanted to take her to the doctor, but she insisted she just needed rest. She seemed distant that whole week. When I tried to hold her hand, she would pull away after a few seconds. When I kissed her goodnight, she would turn her head slightly, so I caught her cheek instead of her lips. I told myself it was wedding nerves. Everyone said brides got anxious before the big day. Kyle became harder to reach, too. He would not answer my calls as quickly. When we did talk, he seemed tense, distracted. I asked if he was okay, if he needed anything. He said work was stressful. I offered to help, but he said he would figure it out. I missed my brother. I missed my fiancée. I felt like I was losing both of them, and I did not understand why. 5 days before the wedding, everything fell apart. I had spent the afternoon meeting with our wedding planner, finalizing the seating chart and timeline for the reception. The meeting ended earlier than expected, around 5:30 in the evening. I decided to head home and surprise Sarah. Maybe I could cook her favorite pasta dish, light some candles, help her relax before the wedding week madness really kicked in. I unlocked the apartment door quietly, planning to call out and surprise her, but I heard voices coming from the bedroom. I assumed Sarah was on the phone with someone. I walked down the hallway, ready to wave hello and start cooking. I pushed open the bedroom door. Kyle was sitting on the edge of our bed. Sarah was next to him, tears streaming down her face. Kyle was holding her hand. I froze. My brain could not process what I was seeing. It was not what you might think. They were not kissing. They were not undressed. But the intimacy of the moment, the way he held her hand, the way she leaned toward him, it was enough. It was more than enough. "What is going on?" My voice came out strangled, barely above a whisper. They both jumped. Sarah pulled her hand away from Kyle's. She looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. Kyle stood up quickly, his face pale. "Brendan." Kyle started. His voice was shaking. "We need to talk." "Talk about what?" I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. My hands were cold. Every instinct told me to turn around, to walk away, to not hear what was coming next. Sarah was sobbing now, her hands covering her face. She could not speak. Kyle took a step toward me, and I took a step back. "Something happened between us," Kyle said. The words hung in the air like poison. Between me and Sarah. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I could not breathe. I looked at Sarah, waiting for her to deny it, to tell me Kyle was lying, that this was some sick joke. But she just cried harder. "What do you mean something happened?" I needed him to say it. I needed to hear the words. 3 months ago, Kyle continued. His voice was barely steady. "We were here. You were working late on that hospital project. Sarah and I had some wine. We were talking, and it just happened. I am so sorry. 3 months ago. 3 months. While I was working late, trying to secure a promotion so I could provide better for our future, my brother and my fiancée were here, in our home, in our bed. Once, I asked. My voice sounded hollow, like it was coming from far away. Kyle looked at the floor. Sarah shook her head. Not just once, Sarah whispered. It kept happening. I did not know how to stop it. I tried. I really tried, but I could not. The room tilted. I reached for the doorframe to steady myself. Not just once, multiple times, for 3 months, while I was planning our wedding, while I was imagining our future, while I was trusting them both with everything I had. Why are you telling me this now? I needed to understand. The wedding is in 5 days. Sarah looked up at me, her face red and swollen. Because I am pregnant. The world stopped. Every sound disappeared. I stared at her, unable to form words. I found out 3 weeks ago, she continued, her voice breaking. I took the test. It is Kyle's baby. I know it is his. 3 weeks. She had known for 3 weeks and said nothing. We had gone to dinner. We had talked about honeymoon plans. We had finalized the guest list. And the entire time she was carrying my brother's child. I looked at Kyle. He was crying now, too. I did not plan this, he said. I never meant for any of this to happen. But now that it has, I realize something. He paused, wiping his face. I love her, Brendan. I know that sounds insane. I know I have destroyed everything. But I love her. And I want to marry her. I want to raise this baby with her. The words were knives. Each one cut deeper than the last. My brother loved my fiancée. He wanted to marry her. He wanted the life I had planned. Sarah reached toward me. Brendan, please, I still love you. I do not want to lose you. Maybe we can figure something out. I can end the pregnancy. I can cut Kyle out. We can still get married. We can pretend this never happened. I stared at her hand outstretched toward me. She was offering to end a pregnancy, to erase my brother from our lives, to pretend, as if any of that was possible, as if I could ever trust her again, as if I could ever look at either of them without seeing this moment. Get out. The words came out cold and calm. I surprised myself with how steady my voice sounded. Brendan, please. Sarah stood up, taking a step toward me. Get out of my house. I looked at both of them. Now. We need to talk about this, Kyle tried. There is nothing to talk about. You love her. She is carrying your child. You want to marry her. You got exactly what you wanted. Now get out. I walked to the front door and opened it. I stood there holding it open, waiting. Sarah grabbed her purse, still crying, still trying to speak. I did not look at her. Kyle walked past me, pausing as if he wanted to say something. I stared straight ahead until he walked through the door. Sarah followed, turning back one more time. I shut the door before she could say whatever she wanted to say. The apartment was silent. I stood there for a long moment, my hand still on the doorknob. Then I walked to the bedroom. Sarah's wedding dress was hanging in the closet, covered in protective plastic. The boxes of wedding favors we had assembled together were stacked in the corner. The framed photo of us from last Christmas sat on the nightstand, both of us smiling like we did not have a care in the world. I sat down on the floor, my back against the bed. I did not cry. I could not. I just sat there staring at nothing, feeling absolutely nothing. My mind was blank. My chest felt hollow. Everything I thought I knew had been a lie. Everyone I thought I could trust had betrayed me. And in 5 days I was supposed to marry someone who had been sleeping with my brother for 3 months. I did not sleep that night. I sat on the couch in the dark, replaying every moment of the past 3 months. Every time Kyle came over for dinner. Every time Sarah smiled at her phone. Every excuse, every explanation, every lie. It all made sense now. The signs had been there. I had just refused to see them. Around 4 in the morning, something shifted inside me. The numbness began to lift, replaced by clarity. I thought about my parents. They had both passed away years ago, my father from a heart attack when I was 23, my mother from cancer 2 years later. They were not here to talk to. There was no family gathering where we could hash this out. It was just me now. I thought about what Kyle had said. He loved Sarah. He wanted to marry her and raise the baby. And Sarah, even though she had offered to cut him out, had chosen to be with him multiple times over 3 months. Whatever they had, it was real to them. They wanted each other. Fine. They could have each other. But they were not going to walk away from this without consequences. They were not going to destroy my life and then ride off into the sunset while I picked up the pieces alone. If they wanted to be together so badly, they were going to face every single person who knew what they had done. They were going to own it. By the time the sun came up, I had a plan. I made coffee and opened my laptop. First, I called the wedding planner. She answered on the 3rd ring, cheerful and ready to discuss final details. I told her the wedding was canceled. She gasped, started to ask questions. I cut her off politely but firmly. Personal reasons. It was not happening. I needed her to cancel everything: the venue, the caterer, the photographer, the florist, the DJ. Yes, I understood we would lose the deposits. That was fine. Just cancel it all. Next, I drafted an email to every single wedding guest. I kept it simple and dignified. Dear friends and family, I regret to inform you that Sarah and I have decided to cancel our wedding. Due to personal circumstances, we will not be getting married. Thank you for your understanding and support during this time. Brendan. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Within minutes, my phone started ringing. I ignored every call. I did not owe anyone an explanation right now. That would come later. I called my Aunt Linda, my mother's younger sister. She was the only close family I had left. She answered with her usual warmth, asking about wedding preparations. I told her everything. She was silent for a long time after I finished. Then she said very quietly, "That boy, I cannot believe Kyle would do this to you." She asked what I was going to do. I told her I was going to give them exactly what they wanted. She did not understand. I explained that they wanted to be together, so I was going to let them be together, but everyone was going to know what they did to get there. Aunt Linda was quiet again, then said, "You are stronger than I would be." We talked for another hour. She offered to come stay with me. I told her I needed to do this alone, but I appreciated her. My phone was exploding with calls and texts. Sarah had called 37 times. Kyle had called 22 times. I ignored them all. Finally, Sarah sent a text. "Please, Brendan, we need to talk. I made a mistake. I love you. Please give me a chance to fix this." I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I typed back, "You wanted to be together. Congratulations. Now deal with the consequences." I blocked both of their numbers immediately after sending it. Then I did something I normally would never do. I opened Facebook. I rarely posted anything personal on social media. My last post had been a photo of a building I designed 6 months ago. But this needed to be public. I needed everyone to know. I typed carefully, choosing each word with precision. "I want to let everyone know that my wedding to Sarah has been canceled. The reason is simple: she is pregnant with my brother Kyle's child. This has been going on for 3 months. They have decided they want to be together, and I am stepping aside to let them have that. I wish them well as they start their new family. Thank you to everyone who supported us. I appreciate your kindness during this difficult time." I read it over 3 times. It was factual. It was not cruel or dramatic. It was just the truth. I hit post. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within an hour, I had over 200 comments. Friends expressed shock and support. Family members tagged Kyle and Sarah demanding answers. My cousins were furious. Former classmates could not believe it. Co-workers from the architecture firm sent private messages offering to take me out for drinks. The post was shared multiple times. There was no hiding from it now. Everyone knew. Kyle tried to call me from different numbers. Sarah created a new Facebook account to message me. I blocked everything. Aunt Linda called to tell me that Kyle's phone was being bombarded with angry messages from relatives. Sarah's mother had called Aunt Linda in tears, apologizing profusely for her daughter's behavior. People were choosing sides, and no one was choosing Kyle and Sarah. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. This was the consequence I had wanted. They got to be together, but they had to face everyone's judgment. They had to own what they had done. They could not hide it or sugarcoat it or pretend it was some romantic love story. It was betrayal, plain and simple, and now everyone knew it. I spent the next week methodically removing Sarah from my life. I packed all of her belongings into boxes. Her clothes, her books, her decorative pillows that I never understood but tolerated because she liked them, her collection of ceramic mugs, her yoga mat. Every single thing that belonged to her went into boxes. I called her from a blocked number and told her she had 2 hours to pick everything up on Saturday morning. She showed up with Kyle. I'd left the boxes in the hallway outside my apartment door. I watched through the peephole as they carried everything down to his car. Sarah was crying. Kyle looked exhausted. I felt nothing. After they left, I went back inside and surveyed the apartment. It looked empty, incomplete. Good. I needed it to look different. I could not live in a space that reminded me of her every day. I took a week off work. I told my boss there was a family emergency, which was not exactly a lie. He was understanding, told me to take whatever time I needed. I used that week to transform the apartment. I repainted the bedroom. We had chosen a soft beige color together because Sarah liked neutrals. I painted over it with a deep navy blue. It looked masculine strong, nothing like what we had before. I bought a new bed. I could not sleep in the one we had shared, knowing what had happened there. I got rid of the couch, too, the same one where I had found Kyle and Sarah sitting too close together. I ordered a new one online, modern and sleek in charcoal gray. I rearranged the furniture. I bought new artwork for the walls, abstract pieces that I chose based solely on my own taste. By the end of the week, the apartment looked completely different. It felt like mine alone. Each change I made was liberating. I was reclaiming my space. When I went back to work, my colleagues were supportive. A few people had seen the Facebook post. They did not ask invasive questions. They just let me know they were there if I needed anything. My boss called me into his office and offered me an opportunity. There was a major project in Seattle that needed an experienced architect for 2 months. It would mean traveling back and forth, staying in Seattle during the week. Would I be interested? I said yes immediately. Getting out of Portland sounded perfect. Kyle tried one more time to see me. He showed up at my office building during my lunch break. Security called up to ask if I wanted to see him. I said no. They escorted him out. He sent me a letter through Aunt Linda. She brought it to me, saying she did not read it, but felt obligated to deliver it. I threw it away without opening it. There was nothing he could say that would matter. Sarah tried, too. She came to the apartment one evening, knocking softly, saying my name through the door. I sat on my new couch in silence until she left. Later, I heard from a mutual friend that Sarah had quit her teaching job. The scandal had spread through her school. Parents had complained. Her principal had suggested she take a leave of absence. She and Kyle moved in together officially. They were trying to make it work. Everyone was judging them. No one from our families would talk to them. They were isolated together, facing the consequences of their choices. I sent one final communication through my lawyer. Not a lawsuit, just a formal letter. It stated clearly that I wanted no further contact from either of them. No calls, no visits, no attempts to reach out through others. If they violated this, I would pursue a restraining order. The letter was delivered to the address where they were now living together. I never heard from them again. 2 weeks later, Aunt Linda told me they had gotten married at the courthouse. No ceremony, no guests, just them and a witness they found there. She was 4 months pregnant at that point, starting to show. Kyle's income was unstable and Sarah was no longer working. They were struggling financially. They had wanted to be together so badly, and now they were. But it was not the fairy tale they had probably imagined. It was hard, lonely, and weighted with everyone's disapproval. I felt satisfied. Not happy, but satisfied. They got what they wanted, and they got exactly what they deserved. 3 months after everything fell apart, I was spending most of my time in Seattle. The project there was going incredibly well. I was designing a sustainable housing complex, something innovative that could actually make a difference in the community. I threw myself into the work completely. I stayed late at the office, refining plans, meeting with contractors, solving problems. My boss noticed. He commented multiple times on the quality of my work, said it was some of the best he had seen from me. The team in Seattle did not know my history. To them, I was just Brendan, the architect from Portland, who was helping on this project. We would go out for drinks after work sometimes. They invited me hiking on weekends. I went. I discovered I actually enjoyed their company. There was something freeing about being around people who did not look at me with pity or curiosity. I could just be myself without the weight of what had happened. I started running again, but differently than before. In Portland, I ran the same route every day past the same coffee shop where I had met Sarah. In Seattle, I explored new trails. I ran along the waterfront. I ran through neighborhoods I did not know. Each run felt like I was moving forward, not just physically, but emotionally. I began keeping a journal. I had never been much of a writer, but something about putting my thoughts on paper helped. I wrote about the betrayal. I wrote about the anger. I wrote about the moments when I felt okay and the moments when I did not. Over time, the entries became less about them and more about me. What did I want for my future? What kind of person did I want to be after this? What had I learned? I read books about healing from betrayal. I learned that forgiveness did not mean I had to let them back into my life. It meant I had to stop letting what they did control me. I learned that trust could be rebuilt, but it took time and the right people. I learned that being alone was not the same as being lonely. One morning, about 4 months after the breakup, I went for a run before work. It was a beautiful day, clear skies, cool air. I ran for 6 miles without thinking about Sarah once. When I realized that I actually stopped running and stood there on the trail taking it in. 2 days. I'd gone 2 full days without thinking about her or Kyle or what they had done. It felt like a victory. At work, there was a woman on the Seattle team named Amy. She was a civil engineer, smart and funny. We worked together on coordinating the structural elements of the building. She had this dry sense of humor that made even boring meetings entertaining. One day, she asked if I wanted to grab coffee after work. Just coffee, she said, nothing weird. I hesitated. She must have seen something in my face because she quickly added that she was not hitting on me, she just thought I seemed like someone who could use a friend. I agreed. We sat in a coffee shop and talked for 2 hours. She told me about her life, her job before this one, her family. I found myself opening up a little. I told her I had recently ended a relationship, that it had been complicated. She did not push for details. She just listened. At the end, she said if I ever needed someone to talk to or just hang out with, she was around. We exchanged numbers. Over the next few weeks, we became genuine friends. She introduced me to her friend group. We went to trivia nights. We saw movies. It was nice, uncomplicated friendship. She never asked about my past unless I brought it up. She treated me like a regular person, not someone damaged. Through Amy, I started to believe that I could trust people again. Not blindly, not naively, but carefully. I could let people in without giving them the power to destroy me. It was possible to build connections without losing myself in the process. 6 months after the breakup, the Seattle project wrapped up. I returned to Portland permanently. My boss promoted me to senior architect. The raise was significant. He told me I had earned it, that my work over the past 6 months had been exceptional. I felt proud. Not just of the promotion, but of the fact that I had kept going. I had not let what happened stop me from building my career. Back in Portland, I reconnected with old friends. They had given me space when I needed it, but now they welcomed me back. We picked up where we left off. I joined a recreational basketball league. I started taking a woodworking class on weekends. I was building a life that was entirely mine, filled with things I chose, people I chose, activities I chose. I was not trying to fit into someone else's vision of what my life should be. This was my vision. I heard updates occasionally through Aunt Linda. She still kept in touch with some people who knew Kyle and Sarah. Their baby had been born a girl. Kyle had finally found a more stable job, but money was still tight. Sarah was staying home with the baby. They were doing okay, she said, but it was hard. They rarely went out. Most of their old friends had distanced themselves. They were building a life together, but it was isolated and difficult. I felt nothing when I heard these updates. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness. They were just two people I used to know living their lives somewhere else. What they did to me was a part of my past now, not my present. I had moved on in a way I did not think was possible 6 months earlier. One Saturday afternoon, I was at the grocery store buying ingredients to try a new recipe. I was thinking about whether I needed fresh basil or dried when I heard someone say my name. I looked up. Sarah was standing there about 15 feet away. Her hair was different shorter. She was thinner than I remembered tired looking. She was holding a baby on her hip, a little girl with dark curls. We made eye contact. She opened her mouth to say something. I could see the apology forming on her lips, but I did not want to hear it. I did not need it. I gave her a small nod, the kind you give to an acquaintance you barely remember. Then I said very calmly, "I hope things work out for you." I turned and walked toward the checkout line. I did not look back. I heard her say my name once more softer, but I kept walking. That encounter could have ruined my day. A year ago, it would have. But as I drove home, I realized I felt fine. Seeing her did not hurt. It did not make me angry. It was just a moment, brief and insignificant. She was a stranger now. The power she once had over me was gone. I had taken it back. I never saw Kyle again. I did not want to. Aunt Linda mentioned once that he had asked about me, wanted to know how I was doing. She told him I was doing well and he should focus on his own family. I appreciated that she protected me from him. Some bridges once burned should stay burned. It has been a full year now since I found Kyle and Sarah in my bedroom. I am sitting in my apartment, the one I completely transformed, and I am thinking about everything that happened. The place looks nothing like it did when she lived here. The navy blue walls, the modern furniture, the abstract art I chose. Every corner of this space reflects who I am now, not who I was trying to be for someone else. I have learned a lot this year. I learned that the most painful betrayals come from the people closest to you. I learned that you cannot control what others do, only how you respond. I learned that walking away from people who hurt you is not weakness. It is strength. When I decided to give Kyle and Sarah what they wanted, people thought I was being passive. Some friends said I should have fought harder, that I should have tried to win Sarah back or at least made Kyle pay in some dramatic way. But they did not understand. Letting them be together was not about giving up. It was about refusing to hold on to something that was already poisoned. They wanted each other fine. They could have each other and everything that came with that choice. The consequences were not ones I inflicted. They were natural results of their actions. When everyone found out what they did, Kyle and Sarah faced judgment from family and friends. They lost relationships. They lost respect. They had to build a life together under the shadow of how that life began. I did not have to punish them. Their choices did that for them. All I did was tell the truth and step aside. I learned something crucial about forgiveness, too. For months, people asked if I had forgiven Kyle and Sarah. I did not know how to answer. Forgiveness felt like it meant saying what they did was okay, and it was not okay. It would never be okay. But I came to understand that forgiveness is not about them. It is about me. It is about releasing the hold that their betrayal has on my life. I do not wish them harm. I do not spend my energy hating them. I have simply moved on. Maybe that is what forgiveness actually looks like. I also learned to value myself differently. Before Sarah, I think I defined my worth by my relationships. I was a good son when my parents were alive. I was a good brother to Kyle. I was a good boyfriend then, a good fiancé to Sarah. But when those relationships fell apart, who was I? This year forced me to answer that question. I am Brendan. I am an architect who creates meaningful spaces. I am a friend who shows up for people. I am someone who can be hurt deeply and still choose to keep going. That is who I am, independent of anyone else. The truth is, losing Sarah and Kyle was devastating, but it also gave me something unexpected. It gave me myself back. I was so focused on building a life with Sarah that I had stopped asking what I wanted. What kind of apartment did I want to live in? What hobbies did I enjoy? What did my ideal weekend look like? I had been folding myself into her preferences, compromising on things that mattered to me. Now I only answer to myself. The freedom in that is something I had not anticipated. I do not know when I will be ready for another relationship. Maybe soon, maybe not for a long time. But I know what I want now. I want someone who is honest even when the truth is hard. I want someone who respects boundaries and values trust. I want someone who sees me as a partner, not as a convenience or a safety net. And I will not settle for less. I know my worth now. I know what I deserve. Sometimes people ask if I regret how I handled everything. They wonder if I should have given Sarah another chance, if I should have tried to repair things with Kyle. The answer is no. Not even a little bit. The moment I found out about the betrayal, something fundamental broke. Trust is like glass. Once it shatters, you can glue the pieces back together, but it will never be the same. Every time you look at it, you see the cracks. I did not want to spend my life looking at cracks wondering when the next break would come. I wanted something whole, so I let them go and built something new. The decision to tell everyone what happened was controversial. Some people thought I was being vindictive, airing private business publicly. But I do not regret that either. What Kyle and Sarah did was not just a private betrayal. It affected our entire community of family and friends. People had invested in our relationship. They had bought plane tickets for the wedding. They had arranged childcare. They deserved to know why that wedding was not happening. More than that, Kyle and Sarah needed to face the reality of their choices. If I had kept quiet, they could have spun a story, made themselves look better, painted me as the problem. The truth mattered. It still matters. Now, a year later, I am building something I never had before. I am building a life that is authentically mine. I have friends I trust. I have work that challenges and fulfills me. I have hobbies that bring me joy. I have peace. Real, deep peace. Not the kind that comes from having no problems, but the kind that comes from knowing you can survive the worst and still be okay. I look at that engagement ring still sitting on my coffee table. I have kept it all this time not because I am holding on to the past, but because it reminds me of what I overcame. Tomorrow, I think I will sell it. Not because I need the money, but because I do not need the reminder anymore. I know who I am now. I know what I am capable of. I know I can trust myself to protect my own heart. Would I want to go back and change what happened? Part of me wishes I had never experienced that betrayal, never felt that pain. But another part of me recognizes that this year has shaped me in important ways. I am stronger than I was. I am wiser. I am more careful about who I let into my inner circle, but I am also more open to genuine connection. I am less naive, but not bitter. I am careful, but not closed off. That balance feels right. I have one final thought that has been sitting with me lately. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is letting go of people who never deserved to hold you in the first place. I gave Kyle and Sarah what they wanted, and in doing so, I gave myself something far more valuable. I gave myself my life back. A life without lies. A life without betrayal. A life that belongs to me alone. And that life, hard as it was to claim, is worth everything. I think about what my mother would say if she were here. She always told me that character is built in difficult times, not easy ones. Anyone can be kind when things are going well, but who you are when everything falls apart, that is what matters. I hope she would be proud of how I handled this. I hope she would see that her son did not crumble. He did not seek revenge. He just stood up, told the truth, and walked forward. That feels like strength to me. That feels like character. As I sit here in this apartment that is finally truly mine, I feel ready for whatever comes next. I do not know what my future holds. I do not know if there is someone out there who will be the right partner for me. But I know I will be okay either way, because I have learned the most important lesson of all. The only person you need to be able to count on is yourself. Everything else is just extra. So to Kyle and Sarah, wherever they are, whatever they are doing, I genuinely do wish them well. Not because I have forgotten what they did, not because I would ever let them back into my life, but because carrying anger and bitterness only weighs me down. They made their choices. They are living with those choices. That is their journey now, not mine. Mine is about moving forward, building something better, becoming someone stronger, and I am doing exactly that. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because they betrayed your trust? How did you handle it? What did you learn about yourself in the process? Drop a comment below and share your story. Sometimes knowing we are not alone in our struggles makes all the difference. If this story touched you in any way, please hit that like button. It really helps. And if you want to hear more stories about overcoming life's toughest challenges, make sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you do not miss future videos. Share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Someone who is struggling to let go. Someone who needs to remember their own strength. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope wherever you are, whatever you are facing, you find the courage to choose yourself. You deserve that. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.